In this video, I'm going to rank every client acquisition channel for law firms. In this video, clients who used to call you first are now talking to Gemini, ChatGPT, and it's not a trend. This has been happening slowly, and it's why it is that you're seeing legal spend drop across the board in 2026, leading to your referral pipeline drying up. And it's happening right now, only going to get worse. Not to mention that you're also getting crunched by inflation. It's affecting you and your family. It's affecting the people that you want to hire, where they're asking for more money as well. And associate wages are climbing over $200,000 a year. Now, the business model that most law firm partners built their career on is under pressure from both sides. It's under pressure from rising wages and inflation, and then you're also facing downward pricing pressure from AI because technology is deflationary in nature. Now, the firms that don't see this yet are going to you have a choice. Are you going to be the firm that's leading the transformation, or are you going to be the ones that get crushed by it? In this video, I'm going to rank every client acquisition channel for law firms for you to actually use. Now, this isn't just for any law firm. Like, this is not for personal injury lawyers. This is not for criminal lawyers. This is for lawyers who sell into companies, who sell to corporations, business to business lawyers. If you're producing zero deals or you're still relying on referrals, I'm going to show you the channels that you can use to actually scale and acquire clients profitably. Now, without depending on luck, every tier comes with a mechanism and not just a verdict. So you can see exactly why certain channels fail and for legal, and why most marketing that exists out there doesn't work for lawyers. And the psychology behind it, as well as how to use the psychology of the channel in order for you to maintain your brand, to maintain yourself professionally. And by the way, I run webinars, but and obviously we're going to talk about that, but I want to give you an honest review of every single channel and give you a clear framework that you can actually use and implement in your business today. So let's get into what's failing first, and then we're going to rank from worst to best. So let's dive into the video.
Let's start off at the bottom of the list. Channels that produce nothing for B2B lawyers in particular. Sometimes it might work for some businesses, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work for you. Given how your buyers think and how you build trust, and it's cold email. Definitely not an S tier. And it doesn't fail because the copy's bad. It fails because of what it signals. Legal buyers equate like unsolicited outreach with desperation. I mean, anybody does, right? Desperation or cold outbound kills premium position before your first call even happens. Now, the firm charging $400 an hour, $3,000 an hour doesn't do cold email, right? Even the firm that, $400 an hour, what am I talking about? This is like nothing for legal in 2026. But, the firm charging $3,000 an hour, there's no way they're not doing cold email, right? In the way that it's done traditionally. There is a way to do it, and I'm going to talk about it a bit later, of how you can get it to be B to 8. And you're creating a negative association with your market where they get hundreds of emails every single day. That puts your prestige into, and most of them are going to ignore it. They're reading it and thinking, why does a law firm need to find clients this way? And there's no way for you to guarantee that they even have this situation, because you're playing the odds that if you send out tens of thousands of cold emails, you might get one or two bites, and you might get one or two people that have the specific situation that you're looking for. And then you're assuming that it's actually going to read it and capture their attention. And if they read it and capture their attention, then you're relying on problem with cold emails, and you're relying on luck, and you're creating negative association with you and your firm that creates downward pricing power, where you can't sell legal services like you would any other professional service, or for example, marketing services, let's say. Now, the second is a legal buyer psychology doesn't convert the same way, for a B2B law firm, right? They're hiring a corporate lawyer. They're not going to buy your service the same way that you sell, for example, personal injury law. The way that you sell personal injury law is the same way that, coaching services sell their offer or sell their service, or the same way that marketing agencies sell their services. It's because it's a greed-oriented offer where you're selling something that makes money. And VSLs are really good at selling things that make money. It can work with law firms, but if you don't have any traffic going to it, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good it is. But the problem is that most copywriters are trained on make money offers. A lot of copywriters make great VSLs, but most copywriters are not trained on how to make VSLs for lawyers, where the buying psychology is completely different. And I recommend that you watch my case study breakdown video, where we break down exactly how we closed 7 retainer clients for Scott at Vision Law, with a specific strategy and psychology behind it, how we did that. Now, this also, the other downside with the VSL is that it just doesn't look like a serious firm, right? VSLs are, in the same category of make money type of offers. And so they already have that certain stigma to them where it damages your professional. It damages your standing somewhat in the eyes of the buyer just from that negative association. It's similar to cold email, but it can work. It can work if you have enough traffic going to it and you have the right buying psychology that's speaking to it. In the video that I have with breaking down the Scott from Vision Law, I break down the specific copywriting examples and you can see it and I share in the video, but you have to sell fitting in, right? The copy needs to speak more about fitting in and staying safe and secure, etc., and staying protected. Versus a lot of make money offers, it's about standing out. It's about living the dream. It's about being first, etc. This is about being part of the crowd and not standing out. And so the copywriting in the VSL needs to hit those notes in order for it to be compelling. Third is a newsletter. I'm going to put this in C tier. Now, content isn't it's that a newsletter works when a reason already has a reason for that. You've already captured their attention. And most people hire lawyers when they have a situation, when they have a pressing situation on their mind. For example, is that whenever I've been in one of these disputes or situation, dicey legal situations where I need you have to, it's all that I can think about, right? I want medicine right now, but a newsletter is geared towards convincing the percent of the market who's not ready to buy your services, who might be ready to buy your services someday in the future. And so for the vast majority of corporate lawyers is that this legal is unfortunately for operators, it's an afterthought. Right? For most entrepreneurs and business leaders, they want to roll the dice so they're thinking of get the upside. And this is the same reason why the psychology is different, where it's a lot easier to sell legal services to somebody that's more conservative, somebody that's more risk-averse. But most of those people do not actually need legal services. A lot of the times you want to talk to the founders, you want to talk to the CEO, you want to talk to the CEO, you want to talk to the business leaders. I mean, the COO is probably easier to sell to. They're probably slightly more conservative as a general. But it's like the buying situation, the 3% of the market who's willing to buy your services right now. For legal services, it's even less than that because you're waiting on them to have a specific situation. And so to show you this mental model and what this actually looks like, it's 3% are buying right now. For legal services is they're going to be ready to buy right now. They'll be hot and they'll have a specific pressing issue. Some of them will be information gathering, but it's much less than 3% because you're just playing the odds of how many people in your market have that specific situation that you're specialized to help with. And so a newsletter is great at converting that part of the market who's problem aware, gathering information, etc. And most of the market, the percentage of folks is going to be much less than that. Fourth is referrals. We're going to put referrals in B tier. Now, your referrals are built on your book. But what's the problem is that when it rains, it pours. When you got a lot of referrals coming in, it's great. And the leads are hot. They're referred to you by somebody who already likes, trusts, and respects you. And as a result of that, they're as close to buying now as possible. Like they are part of that 3% of the market that's ready to buy now. And all that legwork, because of the social proof, is already done. Like everything end to end. So the problem though is that it doesn't scale and it's built on luck. So what happens? You have these feast or famine cycles and your business grows over time, but it grows up and down. And generally the trend is up, but it's not as predictable as you'd like it to be, which can create cash flow problems. And if you're in a downswing in the market, like you're seeing now from both sides, you're facing pressure from inflation, and then AI is now creating downward pricing pressure, right? You have this huge threat I don't know if any of you have heard this. It's Porter's 5 Forces, where it's a great model for understanding what's happening in AI right now. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but I'm going to come back to it. But this is extremely important. Like, I cannot emphasize like how important this is. Where because of AI, you now have this threat of substitutes. Where ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, etc., whatever large language models are now creating downward pricing pressure, where you're going to need to start have an answer for, well, why should I hire you instead of hiring Claude? And your answer of, well, I have 20 years of experience is not good enough. I'm sorry. I know it's hard for you to hear. Adapt or die. Get over it. What do you do? And not just that, but you now have neo firms coming into the market, and I want to double click on that because it makes it's more and more important for you to understand, for anybody to understand where the edge of the market is. Because if you don't understand where the edge of the market is, and you now have neo firms popping up, which send over a contractor legal matter, you get a flat rate quote, they let AI do the heavy lifting, and then they have a licensed attorney review the work. And me as a consumer of legal services, this makes me very happy. I know it doesn't make you very happy, but it makes the market very. And because how can you justify a retainer, a $15,000 retainer when you have services like this popping up? How can you justify it? What is your answer? Well, I'm going to walk you through what you can do and actionable steps that you can take in your marketing in this video for you to solve this, because you are under existential threat. So let's look at, let's move on. Now, referrals, and it's not just me saying this. Legal Trends Report has also been tracking this, and the pattern is consistent. AI is absorbing the first step in the legal buyer's journey. That used to get your customers to reach out and call you is now their first step is ChatGPT. Now, and I'm going to walk you through. There is a way that you can capitalize on it. So continue through to the end, because I am going to break down exactly what you can do. Let's look at some other channels that do work, that building on referrals that can work well. That it's not necessarily clean, and that there's some trade-off, right? And these are the ones that most people are running right now. And so if you're running any of these, pay attention, because the conditions are everything. Like, pay attention to the trade-offs, the conditions, etc. Now, Meta can bring in the right buyer. Legal offers can be profitable on Meta, and I've seen that across multiple campaigns, but there's a trade-off. And most firms don't understand what it is that they're actually buying with Meta. And Meta, because Meta is an interruption. You're scrolling on your phone, and then there's these ads that pop up that interrupt your scroll. And so because of that, your buyers are not actively, people looking on Meta didn't wake up today and say, I need to hire, by golly geez, I need to hire an attorney today. They were looking for something else, or they're looking at something else entirely. And your ads stop them, which means that the intent, if they have a situation, is likely to be low. The lead is cold. And that means that you have to do a lot more heavy lift in nurturing, in order to do that. And there's a more powerful way for you to nurture that works great for legal offers and lawyers. And that you need to have callbacks, like you need to call them. And, when I'm running Meta campaigns, I have my team call them 15 times. I have an AI and a human 15 times. And then there needs to be a dedicated sales process in place. Like, you need to have legal consultants that meet with the lead and convert them. Now, the benefit though with Meta is that it scales linearly. Like, if we take a standard plot here, and here we have ad spend, and then X, we have X equals time. You start off the spend. So here on Y, we have ad spend. X, we have time. On Y is ad spend and return. So let's say your ad spend increases like this. Because Meta wants to reward you, you're going to see additional results. It's going to be linear for a time, and then it's going to go like this. You're going to start reaching point of diminishing returns. And it'll taper off. And then you got to refresh creatives just to, you got to constantly do work in order to maintain your advantage. Now, as your creative volume starts to increase, the amount of work that you need to do on Meta, because now cost of creatives is much cheaper now, thankfully, to the advent of AI, but still, and eventually it gets a diminishing point of return. Like you can get these types of jumps when you massively increase the creatives. You see where I'm going with this. And so Meta, it's a trade between, if you just choose to invest in Meta over another channel, is that the downsides with Meta, you're taking a risk. You're taking a risk assuming that the agency that you're hiring actually knows what they're doing, and then you're also risking the ad spend. So there's two risks. Now the benefit and the upside of that is that if it's successful, it'll lead to cash now, and it'll lead to cash relatively quickly in the turnaround time. And then, but in order for you to scale it, it requires a lot of work and it requires a lot of creative. So hopefully the agency that you're hiring is managing that and owning that. And a huge red flag, any agency that you hire, is that if they're not refreshing their creatives every 4 to 6 weeks, because that's what it takes with the algorithm post-Andromeda in 2026, is that the creatives can cycle through. Like some people will now probably maybe even say in the comments, like, 4 to 6 weeks is bullshit, Scott. It's actually 2 to 3 weeks. Fair enough. But I mean, it used to be 2 to 3 months that we could run winners, sometimes even longer. Sometimes there were ways that we could refresh them up to 6. But I've still seen winning creatives work for 3 months in 2026. I just spent $20 million on ads, Meta most. So what do I know? The overall Meta is a good channel. Now, out of the search channels, I mean, it used to be A tier, or out of the paid ads channels, for legal services, it used to be A tier. Now, it probably with search AI, you could make the argument that it's B tier, but let's say I'll put it in an A tier because it's a different animal altogether than Meta. And the reason is that the buyer who's coming and looking for legal services on Google is already active and looking, right? They have an active problem and they searched it in Google. They searched it for an active solution. So they need somebody who can solve their problem. The gap between that and then somebody just stopping and checking their phone or on their screen, is looking, doom scrolling on their screen, and they just impulsively clicked an ad. As many of you know who run Meta campaigns, you say like, you'll hear the leads, like, or you call them and they say, yeah, I saw you submit a form, and I say, dead face. No, I didn't. What are you talking about? What are you saying here? Yes, you did. And then you're gaslight yourself and question your sanity. And I'm the crazy one. It happened. Now, Google, it happens much less because they have an active situation. They have an active problem. It still happens, something that can still happen, but far less. And the context of them actively reaching out a solution because they came to you means that you can charge them a lot more. You're not interrupting them. You're not calling them to interrupt their day. You're asking a question that they already asked. Now, that positioning gives you that prestige, the prestige as a law firm that you want. And even Scott from Vision Law, one of his most successful channel that he was using most successfully before he came to us was Google Ads. And I mean, having spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing campaigns for lawyers, Google Ads was typically our most successful channel. Google, or for law firms when I had my agency. Now, you need to have very tight keywords in order to make this succeed. You need to have the right landing pages. And you have to have a clear intake process, right? So what happens the step after they submit a lead form? How quickly are you calling, right? I mean, it's 2026. If I'm telling you about speed to lead, you're still not doing it. No agency can help you if you're not calling the leads. If you're not calling the leads right away as soon as they come in, no marketing is going to work. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to give you the bad news, but I want you to win. I want you to succeed. I want you to get the most value out of this channel. But if you're not calling the leads right away within 2 seconds of them calling you, or you have a system that enables you to do that, you're in the wrong place. So the channel wins because they're already thinking about the problem. They're already thinking about a system. They're already thinking about answering. Like they're not thinking about a system. They're already thinking about hiring a lawyer. So these are the firms that maximize their ad spend. And if they are investing in paid, it's because they're investing in Google. Now, one of the drawbacks, fair warning, is that it's very expensive and that it costs a lot. Like the cost per click is quite high on paid but it's the same situation where taking a risk on the ad spend. So it increase it, there's your ad spend, there's your ROAS. It's the same trade that you're making, the same bet. where you're betting on the agency that they know what they're doing. You're betting that they know what they're talking about, that they're going to produce a return. Now, fair warning, it's been a while since I had my ads agency on Google, but we were spending on Google. So I'm not the most qualified person to talk about Google ads, but I've seen it consistently work in my own ads agency. Full disclosure, I haven't had that agency since 2013, but typically, historically, it's been the top performer channel by far. And it's one that you can scale, where if you have a clear intake, you don't need to spam people. You don't need to systems like a VSL. This is where a VSL actually can work quite well, is if you connect Google Ads with a VSL, where they come in onto the landing page and then you explain the intake process, you speak directly to the problem, speak directly to the consequence of not doing something about that problem. Like I said, buying psychology for law firms 101. And now a lot of lawyers say, well, God, I don't have case studies. I don't have case studies. Well, I'll walk you through a specific strategy of exactly how you can walk through the specific strategy, how you can market despite not being able to use your client's case studies, and how you can tell compelling stories all the same. And I break that down all on the case study breakdown with Scott from Vision Law. So go check that out. Now, let's talk about some of the best channels. It used to be SEO. Now it's called AEO, GEO, LMMO, AI SEO. Doesn't matter. I mean, the name keeps changing because we're moving very fast and we haven't agreed on a naming convention yet. When a business owner or general counsel has a specific legal question today, they are going to use ChatGPT, Perplexity, or Claude, or any one of them. Now, the firms who show up in those answers that structure their content in their blogs to answer those specific questions that your buyers used to go to Google for, and this is why I was torn between Google Ads and search, like organic search. And this is still under, all the chatbots, Perplexity, Claude, whatever, it's still all under the realm of organic search. Right? The more important thing is that this is where it is that your buyers are looking for answers. They're not, and it's no longer based on keywords. Now it's based on specific questions and how it is that you can rank by specific question. And the AI has specific answers to those questions that your buyers are typing in right now. Legal Trend Report is also saying the same thing, that buyers are looking at AI first. Now, the firms that are inside that are the ones who are going to get the call. Like if your firm is getting referenced in the answers, you're the ones that is going to get the traffic. And that is how you can capitalize on what I mentioned earlier of, despite having all this downward pricing pressure, despite having all of this pressure from AI, if you want to capture what is becoming a shrinking market and doing everything you can in order to capitalize on, you want to go with the grain, no longer fighting against it. And so the biggest thing is you want to have a strategy behind how to structure your website. What blogs are you writing on your website? What are the questions that your buyers have? What are the questions that your future clients have? And then creating blogs that answer those specific questions. And better yet, taking that to Medium, taking that to Substack, taking that to Quora, being the authority, and then also being cited by other sites in your domain for having answered those questions, right? Because the way that the algorithm works, the way that the artificial intelligence is looking at and ranking who to reference is it's looking at domain authority, and it's looking at whether or not your content on the site actually answers the question. And those are the two mechanisms of how it is that you can rank on these AI search channels. Now, if you have to pay $500 to rank on one of these leading legal authorities, then just pay your $500. It will more than pay off, because then you're going to start getting ranked in these platforms. On second thought, I put an A tier, but it's actually probably S tier. Now, the reason is that kind of going back on the model is, you have, let's say you have, this is leads over time. So the best way to understand the search traffic is that, you're an investment. Red is investment for now, where you're going to take on this fixed cost to reinvest into the channel. But then it's going to be probably 6 months, let's say, before you start seeing an actual return. If you're investing in this consistently, I mean, there's ways like you can hire blog you can hire people to do this for you very cheaply on Upwork, Fiverr, etc. You just need to manage. Ideally, if you can get somebody that you don't need to manage, who's senior to just run this and do this, then you can do it without paying the agency premium. Now, this is typically what happens, is that more like a slow exponential lift of where you're investing this money up front, but you're playing the long game. I've seen any type of organic marketing go like that, where if you can get the traffic, you can get the eyeballs, and then you get the trust. Because the other thing too, with the other massive lever that AI search pulls is that people are delegating their thinking to these search engines. I mean, these, not the right one, excuse me. Delegating their thinking to these AI models, excuse me. So they're already telling you, the AI models are telling you, yeah, you should talk to a lawyer. Here's who the lawyer is that you should talk to. So they're coming, Google, the power of AI search is that they're even further down the buying cycle. They're even closer to buying than they were before on Google, because these models are already doing the first step of that buying process for them. Now, on this note of content, right, LinkedIn can be great as well because people are on LinkedIn to do business. And so, especially if you have a specific niche or domain authority and you're talking about LinkedIn, I mean, this is the same thing with organic, where, the same model applies, where if you're investing time and effort on LinkedIn, then you're going to have this initial outlay of effort, but at some point the momentum is going to build, and then you can go parabolic like that. Or even if you have a niche small market, it tapers off and you start hitting diminishing returns or flattening of your returns, because people always have problems. So you're going to capture those problems. Now, LinkedIn is great because, and the reason why LinkedIn is better than newsletters is because newsletters, there needs to be an opt-in, there needs to be a step. But Scott, if I have a connection with somebody on LinkedIn, I still need to go through that opt-in or that step. Yes, but it's much more top of funnel. So for example, right, the buyer's journey is like this, right? Where you have people that the people up here, they don't know who you are. People here, they know who you are. People down here, they know they're ready to, they have a problem and they're interested in a solution. So with LinkedIn, you can capture all the people up here, right? And then you can move them down into knowing who you are and staying top of mind to be, hey, I'm the litigation, whatever. Like I'm the contract litigation, or, I'm the employment lawyer, I'm the employment lawyer, or I'm the insert corporate specialist, I'm the patent lawyer, etc. Like I'm this specialist. The more that you're known as that person, the more that you're going to be able to generate returns. And so by generating, the more that you're going to be able to establish yourself as that authority using the algorithm to your advantage, the more that you're going to capture those people that when they have a situation, that other people are going to refer you to them, which is why LinkedIn is in the A tier. But similarly to search, it takes a bit of a lift. Now, the other thing too, though, what's worth noting is that LinkedIn now also feeds AI search. So if you're posting a lot on LinkedIn, then the algorithm looks at that and also ranks LinkedIn quite highly, because you're establishing yourself as an authority. And LinkedIn is is a high authority site, which is, so it's a bit of a growth, and we've been investing into this for our own webinar offer. Dovetails nicely into the last one, which is webinar. It could be anywhere from B to S tier, honestly. So it depends. So I'm gonna put it in A tier. A tier because Meta stops the problem. Referrals up and down. Let's say tomorrow in Meta, let's say you're using Meta, you stop spending money. As soon as you stop spending money, the profits also stop. So you spend, boom, down to zero. Webinars work amazing as a way to nurture, going back to my point here, really where you want to have webinars is here. But the reason why webinars work so well is because they're aligned to you establishing your credibility. And you can build an audience over time, because you can take people down from total stranger to somebody who has a problem into somebody who trusts you, who's ready to buy. Now, all of these things, they work, say for example, how you compare these things. Like webinars work great as a way to bolt on well to these other channels. Now, if you're just doing each one of these by themselves, if you do Google Ads plus webinar, S tier. If you do SEO, organic AI search plus webinar, S tier plus. Now, if you're doing LinkedIn to webinar, right? If you're doing Meta to webinar, A tier. Because all of these steps, they get to, let's say this is, I don't know who you are, right? I have a problem. This is a second step where they don't even know you. Boom. Now they know who you are, and now they're ready to buy. Now, all of these things, a webinar gets them to this last stage. For example, somebody comes out on LinkedIn, I have a problem. Great. Instead of just going to a sales call, I just go to your webinar. I find out who it is that you are. I find out how it is that you work, how it is that you operate. I get on a sales call with you. The trust that was built from the AI search and the AI trust, now I'm even closer to buying because the webinar is doing all the heavy work that sales calls do. Now, why are webinars so great? Or why are webinars the best way to do that? It's a live format. And if you just have a VSL, you'll get most of the people will drop off in the first 2 to 3 minutes. Versus a live webinar, you'll have 50% of people who show up stay for more than 30 minutes. Where you'll nurture them, they'll start to build a relationship with you, and then they'll already know everything it is that they'll already know everything about you before they even get on a call. And it's the only channel that lets you demonstrate all of that before the conversation even starts. Now they see how you think, they understand how you work. And now when they get on a call with you, it's just a confirmation. And the webinar has already done the heavy lifting in terms of establishing your prestige, establishing your authority, etc. And Dan Kennedy always says this, where the average person needs 7 hours of content for them to consume before they're ready to buy. 11, a webinar is the best way still is the best way in 2026 for you to be able to get them to that buying stage, or as close to buying as possible before they even get on a sales call. Now, the other piece that's important to know with webinars is that they're not just education. Because if you just try to educate them and you do it if you run like a court hearing, for example, where you're just going through the facts, it's not going to convert. And it won't work. You need to establish a contrast. You need to establish a nightmare scenario of somebody who doesn't take your advice and doesn't get counsel to live through the consequences, and then contrast that versus what happens if they got a lawyer. That's the most effective story for you to honor client confidentiality without disclosing case studies of how to run a successful webinar and how to use buying psychology and a specific type of psychology in order to get them to convert. Now, if you want to see the exact story structure, in greater detail, the 5-part story structure, then tune into the case study breakdown from Scott from Vision Law, where we detail exactly how it is that we did this and how it is that we broke this down, or how it is that the webinar story that we told. So every channel on this tier list fails or works for the same reason, right? Legal buyers don't just hire firms and they hire firms that have captured their attention, that have captured the attention of people who have a specific situation and converted them into somebody who trusts them. And most marketing still, and you see this in cold email, the cold emails that you get all the time, try to force themselves onto you. It's like a salesperson. You go to Cancun and the guy, is like, amigo, playa blanca, right? And they keep trying to sell you. It's like, I have no disrespect to those people, but they're pushy salespeople, is what I mean to say. It's like the door-to-door salesman who just, puts his foot in the door to try to stop you from closing it. It's the same phenomenon. Better yet, Marcel, cut out the playa blanca thing. Now, any legal marketing that doesn't allow you to build trust, this is where I wanted to stand with webinars, is that the great part about webinars is it's a one-way conversation that you can have with 100 people at the same time. And that is why it compounds so well on top of these other channels, is because it lets you that lets you capture the lead using these other channels, and then you use a webinar to massage and nurture them to a point where they're ready to buy and they already trust you. And marketing, we're in a trust recession, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why cold email, newsletters, VSLs, these other tactics work less and less, is because none of them bridge that trust gap the same way that webinars do. So if you've not watched the how a 25K webinar got 0 calls and what Vision Law fixed yet, this is where we break this all down, right? And if you want to know the science-backed way and the psychology behind running legal webinars in a way that actually convert, go ahead, check that out. That's link in the description. Where we sit down and we break down exactly end to end. And you can also watch the interview that we did with Scott. Now we are going to then, for our next video, break down a full pipeline of how it is that this strategy actually works from scratch. And the part where how it is that we've made $20 million in the past 18 months running webinars. I'm going to break down exactly how we do that for our professional services and tech clients. I'm going to take you through under the hood and show you exactly how we do everything. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit a like on this video if you found it valuable. My goal with this is to give you guys as much of the secret sauce and value as possible, so that you can share this, refer this to other people if you got value from it, and send this to a lawyer or accounting firm or professional services provider that that you think could get value from this. So that said, I am going to see y'all on the next one.